Bases dropped on another round of Soccer's Morning Show. Soccer down here. John here, you there. Thanks for hanging out with us as you always do. It is a Thursday, and it's kind of a hybrid because of the midweek madness that we had yesterday with a multi-ball match week involving everybody. And so you end up with midweek weekend. And for Atlanta United, we'll talk about it as much as you want to talk about it this morning. And like I said, I always want to try and have just after match day days where I want everybody to get stuff off their chest. Niko Moreno said to join us at 10:30 as he always does here on a Thursday. But I want to know what's on your mind. Morning, Alex. Morning, Dell. And Dell is getting ready for Atlanta United because the battery ain't got nothing to do between now and then. Atlanta United has got to go to Nashville. And so we'll see what happens there. We'll go over the numbers from last night. We'll go over some of the quotes from last night. Atlanta United loses in Cincinnati by the final of 1-0. And I want your observations. I want you to get everything off your chest. I want to make sure that, like I said, before, as we get into Friday and get ready for Nashville, we can get ready for that match. So, once again, everything that went down last night came down to a moment in the 7th minute, and Atlanta United continued to at least one of the teams in Cincinnati, it looked like, continued to play. That's what I can say about the visitors, not so much about the home side. Frankly, in the second half, there was one team that was playing and one team that wasn't. Obviously, when you got a 1-0 lead, that is your prerogative. But, and I don't mean this as a slight to Rich, but we knew that when Pat Noonan slid over from Philadelphia to Cincinnati, he took some of Philadelphia with him, and it was kind of like Philly light, as I was explaining it to the boss. And frankly, there was one team that was playing in the last 30 minutes, and the other team kind of played scared. They wanted to get out of town. They did just like, we're going to fall down. We're going to waste time. And like I said, that's the prerogative of the team that's leading. But, one team's playing and the other team wasn't. Atlanta United had a couple of chances, but it's that final touch is what is still missing. And I think the numbers are Brooks Lennon has cleared six matches without a primary assist. I think Gigi's cleared 5 without a goal. Those aren't the kind of numbers that you want, but that's where things are right now. Like I said, we'll go over the numbers. And Alex, I know, to your point, where is Cincinnati in the table? They're on the other side of the table when it comes to the Eastern Conference. And to answer your question, Cincinnati's second. Match in hand on Miami, 27 points. I know, like I said, it's when you've got a lead, it's your prerogative to play however you want to play. But falling down and trying to get whistles to stop play, like I said, it's Philly light. Cincinnati, I'll say it, Cincinnati ain't all that. If you're going to play like you played last night against Atlanta United, you're not going to win a championship. You will be found out sooner or later. And that's just part of the overall discussion this morning. So like I said, whatever's on your mind, lay it all out there. We'll go over the numbers. And there's one moment, though, and like I said, I was at a League Two match last night. I was helping out our friends at SSA and catching up on Dothan United. So I was out at SSA last night. So I caught the second half on the drive home. There's a moment, and for those of you that watched, I could only listen. and I've yet to have the opportunity to dial back and check. But there was a moment in the second half, and I would like your feedback on it. And I want to know if it was, in fact, for those of you that watched, a moment late where Miles makes contact with Yorgos Giacomakis. I want to know if it was an elbow, and I want to know if he was lined up. I want to know if Gigi was lined up with Miles, by Miles. So that was another thing. You had the injury to Thiago Almada in the 15th minute, and then you had to kind of reconfigure everything, and then with a substitution and a block and a brick of subs that you had to burn early. That's one less window that you could use, and it takes a little while to get the ideas back up and running when it came to Atlanta United. But I want to know late if it was Gigi getting lined up by Miles. That's what I want to know. For those of you that watch, we'll bring in Jarrett. So, Jarrett, I'm kind of doing the overarching opening statement, and I wanted to find out from those that watched the match if Miles lined up Gigi with an elbow late. That's another question that I had to the floor about the overarching elements from last night. But now that we've had, almost a whole 12 hours to sit here and think about it, what sticks in your mind after last night?
Just the frustration of it. Pretty much from everybody, because I think we've established, I know we've talked about it, but I think we've established at this point that, like, Gonzalo Pineda was already frustrated in the last few games, just because you would get stuff like the Minnesota throw-in where he was, I thought, pretty adamant without naming names, without being specific, that the mistakes were stuff that we looked at. The mistakes were stuff that we saw on film that we knew could be a problem, and we still did not, on the field, in the moment, account for them correctly.
Right.
And that wasn't okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just even the comments post-game last night from Brad Guzan and Dax McCarty to a lesser extent, you're reaching kind of a weird boiling point, I think, where it's frustration, because this one was a weird game, man. Because Emilio just jumped in this morning. Emilio and I were talking about it last night. He picked me during the second half, and one of my things about last night was you had to manage that game in a specific way because you're playing Saturday. And let's be honest, even though they beat Toronto 2-0, Nashville feels like a much more winnable game.
True.
That team has been limping a lot since Leagues Cup last year. When you decided to put a nail gun through your foot in the 7th minute, you changed the entire tenor of last night. You were in a chase mode.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
And when you are in chase mode like that, you have to manage how hard you want to chase it. Now, you had some things that, yay, Stian Gregerson got back on the field.
Right.
Good. Yeah. Doesn't seem like he's concussed.
Right.
It doesn't seem like he's still suffering from post-concussion syndrome.
Right.
Excuse me. I don't mean to say he wasn't concussed the other night. Mm-hmm. There are a couple things that, that was great. Gigi tried to gut out with what looked like a hamstring injury. I'm hoping, and I haven't really given it much thought about the Miles Robinson Gigi thing. I don't give as much of a shit.
9 minutes in, brother. There you go.
About if he's lined him up, just because the problems are that's an individual incident that might have impacted that game in that moment. But at this point, I'm not as worried about it. I am worried about the fact, it's not that I'm not worried about it. I'm worried if, it's concussion syndrome, if Gigi's out. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they were being very cautious. And what it did was give them good. Not good that he got hit in the head, but here's a chance to get him off for a concussion sub.
Right.
Instead of him just languishing around.
Right.
Yeah, man, it's
I have a
It's
twofold thought about Gigi and the elbow. Basically, yes, it does give you a concussion sub late, but it does take Yogurt Giacomakis off the mat for you late. And you've got your big gun who has been, we talk about positional gravity, drawing multiple defenders, and it could have,
I mean, the best chance you had for me in that game was where you got the turnover on the right hand side. Saba's charging in like the Rohirrim down the side of the mountain towards Helm's Deep, and I don't know why God he did not shoot. He tried to play it over to Gigi, who was cutting in. Matt Miazga decided not to yell at the referee long enough to make a really good play.
Mm-hmm.
Then Shande gets it, and Shande decides to try and dribble everybody and their mother, and then just floats the ball right to the goalkeeper. Yeah, you got when you are having those moments, you got to pull the trigger, man. I get you wanted to like get it to Giacomakis, who made a good run. Miazga just countered his run really well.
Right.
Dude, just pull the damn trigger. I'm actively begging you, because the thing for me about it is, I think I've established where I am in that. I think we are in the end game, very much so.
Mm-hmm.
With where Gonzalo Pineda is as the manager, I think we're kind of like, we're not there, but like we've started down a road that you're not going to get off of.
Yeah,
I don't think he's going to survive till the end of the season. I know there was a point in time where I thought he would survive the end of the season, because you're just not going to renew him. Right. It's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah,
7 without a win outside of Open Cup. You can't keep going like that. You can't. And the comments from the players last night, also, no, we haven't lost 7 straight. You had the draw you had the draw with Philly and the draw with Chicago.
Yeah. 7 without a win.
7 without a win it makes it slightly not as terrible, but not much. Mm-hmm. Because the Philly game still feels like the fulcrum where all this just went to hell in a handbasket. Yeah, man, this is just I think the players feel that pressure too, in the comments from Brad Guzan of telling everybody to man up, talking about how unacceptable it was that you had Lucho Acosta winning headers.
Yeah.
Which it is. Lucho shouldn't be winning headers.
5-3. Yeah.
Yeah. He shouldn't be winning headers against anybody.
No.
Maddie should be out there pushing him around.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that not because Maddie's a girl, but because Maddie's shorter.
Yeah.
Maddie will fight people.
Yes, she will. She will.
But she's shorter than the rest of us. But just I think they're feeling that pressure too, because I wonder if you get to the point where you're going to make a change. I personally, if you had to ask me, and you may not be, I'm giving it to you anyway because I have the microphone.
Correct.
I think the spot where you would make a move is after Charleston.
Okay.
Because you had to manage this game, because you can't. You blew your own foot off in the 7th minute because everybody thought the ball went out and it didn't, and everybody stopped for a minute and it cost you. But you couldn't just balls to the wall chase that game last night, because you still have Saturday in a game that feels more doable.
Yeah.
And maybe Saturday is the Rubicon. I don't know where the line is, man. At this point, I don't know. But you've got this really compact schedule. Then you have Open Cup Tuesday.
Then LAFC on the following weekend.
But that's at home.
Yeah, I know.
You have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You have 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you do something, it might be then. After Charleston.
Yeah. And
unless something really weird happens, like in a good way. I don't know how you don't, because I don't know what you do. And I think the players are feeling the pressure too, though.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because of the comments we got last night. But I think they're feeling the pressure in the sense that they know just as well that, if the manager's gone, even if you put an interim in, eyes turn to them next.
No
And
question.
the last two games, the individual performances have not been good enough.
Yeah.
Like the tactics aside, and
Mhm.
you saw Pineda change formations in like the 70th minute, which is early for him trying to make something happen. I think they're feeling the pressure too, because they also know that the individual performances, the individual effort hasn't been good enough. And even if you change the manager, if the individual effort isn't there, it really doesn't matter who's managing the club. And we can sit here and talk about how as good as this roster should be, and as good as this team should be because of the talent on the roster. But you have to put it together, man.
Mhm.
And you have to be better as a collective. And that goes to coaching staff, players, training staff. That's everybody. It's yeah, man. I got nothing else. I got nothing else for you.
No, I mean,
It was just it wasn't an entirely worst case scenario. It was damn close to it.
after the match last night, Dax, quote, once you stop beating yourself, you can actually focus on beating the opponent. That's what we're missing right now, because the way we started the game today was unacceptable, and the goal we conceded is unacceptable. And
Correct.
you see as the ball is being cycled back through, and I think the point the ball is headed toward Kelsey at the back post. You see Dax, and Dax is trying to. It's like Dax is either directing traffic or trying to figure out where the folks are that you're supposed to be in a certain place and they're not, and Dax is trying to direct traffic and get everything squared away, and he's wondering, I think, where pieces are, and they seem to be out of position as the ball's heading to Kelsey and he heads it in. Brad,
You can't switch off though, man.
no,
And
no,
you
no,
can't switch off in the first 10 minutes.
no.
Like, oh, we thought the ball was going to go out. Okay, thinking and doing are two very different things, man. Like
Right.
you can't
Yeah.
just
Until the
you
flag
can't
is up and somebody says something, then no.
yeah, you have to play through the whistle. And that's you especially that early in the game, because then you're down a goal on the road in Cincy, which in a vacuum, losing 1-0 in Cincy is something a lot of teams are going to do this year, because Cincy's defense is very good. They've always scored like less than 2 goals a game.
Yeah,
But
the biggest thing for Cincy is scoring too. That's a national holiday for them.
But we did that shit in 2019 and everybody got mad. By the way, we were winning games like 2-1, 1-0, 2-0 in 2019, and everybody decided couldn't have that. But you won't be the last team that goes Cincy and does that, because that is how they can function. They're fine functioning that way. But that's in a vacuum. In context, it's just another brick in the wall of pissed off that you're going to be feeling.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where, like, you could not have picked a worse time to have to go to Cincinnati, but you've also made your own bed. So,
Brad, after the match, said it was scandalous that Lucho Acosta won 2 headers. Quote,
go ahead.
These are things that aren't X's and O's. These are things that it's got to hurt more to lose than joy to win. It's got to hurt. We need to excuse my language, but we need to roll up our sleeves and be frickin' men about this. You can't put a finger on why it keeps happening. Gazan said, and this is from Doug's article. Gazan said players believe in Gonzalo Pineda. Injuries to several players, many at the same position, meaning center back and striker, haven't helped. Team may have lost Thiago to a calf and Gigi to a hamstring and possibly a concussion, and everyone in the locker room is responsible for the poor streak. Brad said the players had a chat, in quotation marks, according to Doug, in the locker room after Wednesday's match. Quote, Brad, we need to draw a line after tonight, and the performances have to be better. But even the little things that go into a game, this has got to be at the low point. We've got to look forward. We've got to move, and it starts with Saturday, end quote.
Yeah, so to Uncle's thing of not sure what the hesitation is to making a change, I think this is just me. I don't shoot the messenger. I don't have any inside information on this. This is my personal gut feeling.
Yeah.
I think it's because you're in this really tight pop series of games on the road.
Yeah.
And that's why I said I think if you do something, it's after Charleston, which is next Tuesday, which I'll be on vacation. So
And it's a
give
separate
something.
and it's a separate competition that you can figure out set aside either you're advancing to the next round.
Yeah,
or,
and
because
that's
I know that
it's
you're
weird. Even
torn.
if
You're torn as to what to do with Open Cup.
I am, well, actually, I'm not nearly as torn as other people. I think you go for it. Because there are only a few MLS teams left in Open Cup. Nashville will be a much slower paced game if you want it to be. Nashville, we know, will sit a little deeper. But Charleston's a wily little creature.
They are,
and I'm sure Dell was on pins and needles last night. They had played a tough game with Birmingham, which Birmingham I can't ever really figure out. And this is more of like getting into the USL show and it's bleeding through right now.
yeah.
But Birmingham will like go through those phases where like you're like, that's one of the worst teams I've seen in USL Championship, and then you'll see them a week later and be like, they're really good. Where the hell did that come from? They're very schizophrenic at times, but Charleston had a really tough 1-0 game with them last night. Charleston has a week off now before they play next Tuesday. They'll be fine. I would like to go for it against Charleston because if you get through that, I think you have an easier path to a trophy, and I don't want to see any trophy discounted.
Yeah,
honestly, well, don't well land me of any trophy. Chase the easy one that you're in there for, because even if you make a change, and I think that's the road you're down. I think you are way down that road at this point. It's just a matter of a win. No, don't go for it. But the thing, Uncle, is like we never know. Like I have seen teams in this league a couple of years ago.
Sporting
wins the Open Cup and were just an absolutely abomination in the league. Like they couldn't beat anybody in the league. They got in the Open Cup and they just started winning games. It was very, very weird.
Yeah, they made a deep
cup competitions are weird. That's why I say go for it, because if you get through Charleston, then it's you're what 2-3 games away from a trophy. You go for it.
Yeah.
You absolutely could lose to Charleston. If you don't beat Charleston, then yeah, I think that's the easiest moment right there, is like Wednesday.
Heading into a home match, the road trip over all these factors.
You've got regen, and then you can, I would assume Rob would take the interim role at that point.
And then you slide folks up from the inside the hierarchy to help things out.
And see, Tom, I think you ask Rob to do it, and Rob does it. Because Rob is that kind of guy, and I think he would do it for the guys. And also, I don't know what Rob's ambitions are, but another successful tenure as an interim, however long it may last,
right,
certainly helps the resume. So you would ask him at that point, if but we're getting ahead of ourselves with Charleston,
right?
You could lose to Charleston, completely possible. Yeah. You could roll in there and beat Charleston into the ground, completely possible. I don't rule out anything in the Open Cup. Anyone who pretends to tell you they know what will happen in the U.S. Open Cup is someone who is selling you a can of snake oil, because nothing about this tournament makes sense, which is why you go for it in this situation and you see what happens. Emilio's asked about, what if you beat Nashville? Can it be enough turnaround? I don't know if it turns it around. Maybe it stabilizes it. I think if you bludgeon Nashville bloody, first of all, that might low key be an I quit match.
Well, because I think
between Gary and Gonzo.
With Gary Smith, his status.
Nashville's 1 point ahead of you in the table. That's, by the way, that if you want like a really good standing of where you are in things because of this winless streak, right. Nashville's 1 point ahead of you at the table, and Nashville has not been good. They beat Toronto at home last night. It took them 75 minutes, and they found the breakthrough. It was pretty gutsy performance from Nashville, to be honest.
And Toronto also had like 98 people out because of either injury or suspension because of the NYCFC match.
I mean, you still won the game.
That's true. End of the day.
Yeah, you bottom line is you just win, baby. You got it. They found a way to win, and you reach down and find those guts. And I think that's what Dax can talk to. Yeah. Is you have to reach down and you find a way to win those ugly games, which I think was the frustrating thing for me. And that when you pull the wide angle lens out for this season, I go back to the Orlando game at home, and I realize Orlando's not like they have been a disappointment this year, not to the scale you have, but you won that game 2-0 in a game where you weren't at your best, and it gave me optimism for what you had going for you because you were at home, so you're expected to win, but you weren't at your best. But you got two good moments and you took them and you beat them, and you had a clean sheet, and that made me optimistic about what you could do because if you could grind out results like that when you weren't at your best, that was the mark of a good team. Pulling yourself out of whatever dead tailspin you are in right now without ejecting like Goose and smashing your head on the canopy.
Right.
I don't know, man. You have to go deal with Nashville. Like I said, Nashville is gonna have something to prove. They have a little bit of momentum going their way after last night's performance, but they're probably going to sit a little deeper. It's going to be but they're going to try and pop you on the counter. It's going to be probably a more slow-paced game. How do you manage the tempo? How do you manage the moments? How do you manage the players? Because if you want a guy, by the way, if y'all want a guy who got out jumped by Lucho Acosta twice, Bartek Schliess. Because I know that Nick has, I don't know where Nick is this morning. Sadly, I know Nick has gone into this. Other people have, and I know Alex mentioned it. You got guys who need to fight for their spots.
Yeah.
If you're not going to out jump Lucho Acosta, then we'll put someone in there who will. If you're not going to chase after that, if you're not going to chase after a ball, if you're not going to do this, if you're not going to do that, I will find someone who will. If it is, if it is, I'm going to ask Luke Brennan to make something happen Saturday, then it's Luke Brennan who I'm going to ask to make something happen. I'm going to find a way,
If not then also on Tuesday in Open Cup.
Yeah.
I mean, here's
Bart. And that's the thing, man, is I don't know where you strike the balance between playing your starters versus playing the kids against Charleston, right? Because I'm very much in the mode of you go for it.
Yeah, you want to win.
How much do you go for it? Yeah. And Tom mentioned Gio Savadese. If you're wanting to talk about, dude, Gio's a guy we wanted
a long
back in 2016 before Tata got announced, because Gio had at that point. We'll get in the time machine. Go back 8 years now. Jesus Christ, we're old. Dude, I was 27, man. I still felt young and energetic in life.
And then
the 30s happened. We go back in time 8 years. The New York Cosmos had just basically ceased post NASL. I think was that 2 or 3.0 fallout.
Technically, probably 3.
Yeah. Gio Savarese was on our list of guys who were hey man, you should probably give him a call. I think Gio could make it work with this roster because while you are very good and technical on the ball with the guys you have on this roster, you also have the athleticism and I think you have in this roster enough tenacity and enough willingness to be a bit more pragmatic. It'd be an interesting one. Because Gio would certainly not suffer fools.
No,
I don't think he has suffered fools anywhere. But also shout out to Gio, because I know the stories I had heard secondhand when he left the Cosmos, because the Cosmos just kind of ceased.
Yeah,
like the rest of NASL, just kind of snapped out of existence.
Yeah,
he went out of his way to make sure his people and the guys he was around got landing places, places they could land, places they could be successful. And I thought, and as he's going, as he's getting ready to see if he's going to take on another task, and he ended up taking on Portland. But while he's looking out for himself, he was also making sure that his people around him were taken care of.
Yeah.
When he didn't have to. I thought that really spoke to his character. So, yay for Gio.
Yes. What you're looking at with Charleston, by the way, is a couple of familiar faces in Chris Allen, who has started pretty much every match. Jackson Conway is in Charleston. And you also have familiar faces that those who follow USL Championship. Aaron Malloy, who we
Aaron
know.
Malloy, who was part of the Memphis team that beat you last year.
Yeah, Aaron Malloy is a part of it. Jake LaCava is a part of it. Leland Archer is a part of it. Mark Segbers from the Miami FC is going to be on your back line. And Nick Markanich, who is their leading scorer by a fair poke, and Robbie Crawford, who seems to have been in Charleston since the late 1980s. So,
I mean, LaCava feels like he's been in USL since the 70s. I know he hasn't, but, you get my point, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The only thing you're missing from this Charleston team is Forrest Lasso making a return. But I think he's down in Tampa.
Yeah, he is. And that would be a possible opponent in the next round for you.
U.S. Open Cup legend Forrest Lasso.
Correct.
Who I think has scored 2 goals against Atlanta United in the Open Cup in his life.
Well, when you're 8 feet 3 inches tall, the possibilities are endless for something like that. So that's what you're staring at with Charleston coming to town, or for Atlanta going to Charleston on Tuesday.
I do need to run this by Dell because I meant to run it by him yesterday.
Okay.
I will not be going to Charleston. I'll already be on vacation.
Right.
So I don't know what my availability is going to be if news drops next week. You might be waiting a week to hear from me.
Dude, I'll
give you a written release you can read on the show. I don't care.
Okay, sure. I'll post the picture. Take a screenshot.
I do need Dell's advice on this because I have been told by an old work acquaintance of mine that one of the places to go in Charleston for food was the Tattooed Moose. That the duck at the Tattooed Moose was very, very good and worth visiting and eating. So
Tattooed Moose.
Yeah, Tattooed Moose. It's a little bar in Charleston.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that'll be if you find your way in Charleston, that'll be one I have been told is a good one to hit up.
Yeah, that is a forward that to Jason, Mike, and see what.
Well, and I don't know how Mike feels about duck. I'll have to ask him.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I'm sure that Mike would be willing to sample. If not, I mean, he probably would not end up being a full plate of said duck, but I think that he could have it off to the side and sit there and say, okay, how is this supposed to taste? Are there any appropriate dipping sauces or anything that's supposed to coat it appropriately? Those kinds of things. I think that Mike, being the resident foodie, would be going in that direction. I think he could at least sample what's going on. I would think.
We can see.
As someone who is as creative with
Tyler lists the restaurants. Yeah, Tyler will make that drive.
Tyler will definitely sample the duck
because that will be. Like I said, I feel like that will be a fulcrum on a lot of things Tuesday night, next Tuesday night.
Yeah.
If you win it, here's the thing: let's say you beat Nashville and you beat Charleston, you potentially buy time going into the next little stretch of games that leads into the international window in June. I think you're just too far away to straight up wait for that window if things don't turn around.
Right.
I have no idea what you do with Nashville. I mean, if these games don't go well, I feel like that is the easiest point at which you can make a change is after Charleston.
Yeah. Yes, and like I said, I think that because it is a separate competition, you have 4 days leading into your next match, or 3 days plus leading into your next match, 4 until it actually happens, that transitional time is there for everybody to sit there and wear the name tags and shake hands and do what you need to do. If that is in fact the end game for something like that. Once again, let get it off your chest, because tomorrow it's talking about Nashville. By the way, I tried to get Lucas Panzica to talk about Nashville tomorrow. Screwball's going to be in Italy, staring at blue water. You're on vacation. He's already going to be there, and so I'm
not going to Italy. I wish I was going to Italy.
I mean, vacation in general.
Yes.
So, so Lucas is going to be apparently staring. He sent me a picture. He's like, Friday, I'm staring at this, and it's like this blue water with a cliff and a coast and things like that. And I said, so you're celebrating Como's promotion to Serie A? And he goes, yeah, that's about right. So, but no, traditionally we do this on Mondays and Thursdays, and since this is a double match week, hopefully you have adjusted your fantasy teams appropriately. But get it off your chest today, because tomorrow it's getting the remnants off your chest, getting ready for the final for the final weekend of the season in overseas leagues and getting ready for that. But no, today is once again a reaction Thursday by default. So everybody get it off your chest and put it in the Twitch pitch, and we will have the venting of the spleens this morning. And Niko is going to be joining us in about 45 minutes or 50 minutes or so. 10:30 is when Niko drops by, and we'll talk about the rest of what's going on in Major League Soccer, whatever else is on your mind when it comes to Major League Soccer and all those kinds of things, considering that this is a double match week. And so the chaos that's attached to all of that.
Yeah.
and that really, Jared, is about right. That's about right. The heavy expulsion of oxygen and the breath that is attached. And same things keep happening, and you end up getting the same result happening. It's like, what is it they say? What is it about banging your head? It's the same thing happening over and over again.
It's insanity.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing as well, and because we've talked about this, and Bart earmuffs. It's the Auburn. You like, I think you're to the point where you're gonna end up doing something. But you need to make sure, and this is why I think personally that you would ask Rob to caretake it.
Yeah.
And to ratchet up the intensity.
Yeah.
And the guys to, if nothing else, man, play for pride. And I think you've got a lot of guys that are trying. It's the thing is, you have a number of guys who will bust their ass on that team. I think one of the toughest things to do is to accuse people of not trying.
Right.
But you've got to you have to find another gear in the next few. You have to find another gear in the next few days. And that goes for literally everybody on the roster.
Yeah.
Because I think you would ask Rob to caretake it for a bit. That's the thing, Alex, that's where I'm going with this but you have to be thorough. You can't just, and I know y'all know this, I'm not preaching anything new. You have to be thorough in your search of who you want to bring in, what you want to see. Do you want to would you want to be a bit more pragmatic? Because again, Amelia and I were talking about this last night about comparing Gonzo originally coming from Seattle, and Schmetzer, who's more pragmatic. Like, Gonzo is not pragmatic, man. Like, Gonzo's almost suicidally offensive. Like, that's why you're getting bodies forward. If you get beat, fine. Because your intention is to score like 2 or 3 goals a game, and you're not doing that. That is the problem.
What is your best solution to a 1-goal lead, a 2-goal lead? That's
it is an almost reckless amount of offensive pressure where you're going for it. And I think that's what makes him different than what Schmetzer was.
Yeah. And
would you go more pragmatic to manage games out? I don't know. Depends on how you're feeling about it all.
Back to the whole walking before you run deal.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about I know guys have talked about simplifying things a bit. It's still one of those things where I still feel like there are times where they are rushing when they don't need to be. Where almost like the analogy I made the other day of it's kind of like watching a pitcher. It was almost like watching a pitcher who is completely bereft of confidence and is trying to aim everything instead of just throwing.
Yeah.
Instead of pitching, you're trying to aim everything. And there are moments watching them where it feels like they are thinking so much about making sure everything is right. That they are focusing on, I need to throw this right here in this exact location with this much spin, with this much movement to finish exactly like this, instead of just trusting your stuff, instead of trusting yourself. but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't. But the thing is, it's so because I mean I've been in that position pitching in high school when I had a manager come out and say, hey, just loosen up, just hey, don't try and do that. Like, okay, well that's easier said than done.
Right.
The guys in the locker room have to kind of figure out how to do that, and it's not something you can just walk up to the midfielders and say, hey, loosen up, don't try and be so perfect, take your time,
Good luck on that.
play quick but don't rush.
Right.
It's so much easier said than done for them.
Because you have a mindset and an approach, and then that mindset and approach is tightened by the lack of successful results, and all of it compounds. It's like this, and it's like this scene in, and I probably should pull this. It's the scene, like the scene in The Replacements, where Jimmy McGinty is asking the Washington Sentinels about what they're afraid of. And one of the players, it's a Keanu Reeves player, says quicksand, and it's like you're getting in the
you have to pull yourself out of it,
right. It's instead of trying to sit there, and the faster that you're trying to get out of the quicksand, the deeper that you end up getting. Instead of slowing things down and trying to be methodical about getting out of the quicksand, you instantly panic and things go faster, and you make things worse in your brain. So. I mean, it's in, yeah. Tom wants to know about the raccoon.
Sorry, Rich. I don't think Rich is here right now, but
I haven't seen him.
Philadelphia's got their own problems.
That they do.
By the way, Philadelphia has lost 4 straight home games.
Yes.
So we are in an absolute mid-off right now with a couple teams in this league. It ain't just us.
No, yeah.
Philadelphia lost 2-1 last night to New York City, and Nick, I may or may not have punched someone in the head Cushing.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah, man. I hope he did see the raccoon, because that was the only good part, was that the raccoons are out looking for more real estate, expanding their portfolio beyond RFK and potentially beyond RSL, the Riot.
Yeah. So here's the quote. Here's the quote from the best replacement quarterback ever, Shane Falco. You're playing and you think everything's going fine. Then one thing goes wrong, and then another, and then another. You try to fight back, but the harder you fight, the deeper you sink, until you can't move, you can't breathe, because you're in over your head like quicksand. That was the quote. That was the quote that was sticking with me. As we
and so to Amelia's point, like of when they start looking at options, like I'm sure they already have. Yeah. This is the same thing to me as players. Where we talk about, like, if you sell Thiago Almada, like, you don't, when you sell him, is not the moment you're like, oh damn, now we have to look for another 10. You're already,
when people have kicked the tires on Thiago Almada,
you already have a list of things. Like, when this thing is downturning like this, you already have, you're already looking at plans. Also, you get into the summer window with potential managerial decisions. You also open up more options for managerial decisions, because you have guys who are out of contract as managers, or might be leading clubs, or might have been released from their contracts. I know everybody's on the Marcelo Gallardo train. Hey man, he lasted 6 months at ATLUTD. That was, and then maybe that was a weird cultural fit. He wouldn't be the first guy to only last a short amount of time in the Middle East. Frank did too. Yeah. Of course, I didn't see everybody clamoring for Frank after he was released. I don't know, man. It's one of those weird things that, like, that will always be for me, and I will eternally be petty about it. That like, I'm not here to tell you that Frank is the best manager that the world has ever seen, but I still think he got kind of a weird shake here, and a lot of people didn't buy in, and kind of straight up refused to buy in when you won multiple trophies with him. And the potential, if the Nashville turf doesn't eat Joseph's knee, the potential could have been really fun in a different world, man. It happens. I wonder if Gajardo would just stay in Europe. I think he would get offers to stay in Europe, and I think he would stay there personally. Yeah. We'll see. But yeah, they're. I'm sure they've already like started the exploratory concepts of it, because you can't be this mired in whatever the hell you're in right now and not be looking around.
Yeah,
no one's that irresponsible.
Yeah, it's like you're going to wait until you fire the manager before you come up with a new manager. No, it's any team that is trying to have
a Dutch team specifically for FDB. I think it's the Dutch thing.
Yeah,
like the Dutch are just unique that way, man. Like they're just cut from a different cloth.
Yeah, whether it's good news or bad news that's attached to your club. Good news that folks are interested in the player. Bad news if you have to replace personnel, either on or off the pitch.
But I'm still mad I had to replace Ange Postecoglou with Brendan Rodgers again. Oh, man. But hey, you know what? I can make even more fun of Rangers because they lost the league to Brendan Rodgers.
Oh, God.
Thanks, Mike Beal.
That's just...
The worst part is Michael Beal put them in a hole. Then Celtics screwed around so much in the early part of 2024 that Rangers almost came back and took it from them. Yeah. That was very weird. TOS, what's the deal with Seattle? Why they look terrible, dude? I don't know, man.
Well, I mean, hey,
we can talk about it at 10:30.
I was gonna say Niko will be here at 10:30. We'll talk about it then. I mean, I know that they have the ish ton of injuries too, and you signed Pedro de la Vega. And De La Vega was supposed to be, someone that was going to help you out. He had the one match, and then in the second match, he gets injured.
Pedro De La Vega's legs are made of paper mache, though. I think that was kind of known. That was the risk you had in bringing him in, because you saw in those limited minutes, he's brilliant. Mm-hmm. He's absolutely brilliant player, but wasn't working.
No.
You can't make the team better on the training table, man.
Mm-hmm. No, you can't.
Bart, I don't have I haven't had my breakfast enough to go through managerial options yet.
Oh, I don't know.
I feel weird having the conversation when the man's still in the job, even if we feel like he is walking to the gallows.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like
Eddie Howe might need a job. I don't think so.
Talk to Alex and Maddie about Eddie Howe.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I was going to say, there we go, Alex. Eddie Howe might need a job. Don't think so. That's the thing. That is one of the things that
it's a weird feeling.
That I try not to do is sit there and talk about other dudes while dude is still employed.
Yeah,
because it feels like you're kicking dirt on somebody, and there's enough that's getting kicked around anyway. And it seems like it's not cool to do something like that. To bring up other dudes and sit there and say, hey,
it's delicate.
Yeah.
And especially and I know we've talked about this, and I know people get tired of hearing of discussing it because the results counter it. Gonzo's a good dude. I don't think it's gonna stick here by any stretch. I think I've made that part clear that you're reaching an end game here. But I hope the best for him as a person, because he's a smart guy. I think he's got a good soul on him.
Yeah, solid.
And absolutely. Yeah, it's a good guy, and it's just whatever he wants to do. I hope he finds joy in it and is able to enjoy it. If it's not going to be here, and the way things are going, it's not going to be. I don't know how what it would take to completely turn that around. So we'll see.
And Emilio, I know that
I don't know that you could right now.
Right. And Emilio, I know that you're asking about training methods. I would say if it was the same injury that continued to happen over and over and over and over and over again, then I would talk about common training methods. But now this is literally, I mean, if you're going, if you go down the list and sit there and look at the injuries, it's different things that happen either in game or, during warm up or, what have you. I mean, it's in game stuff. It's not something that happens on the training pitch where you can sit there and say, oh, this happened over there away from game state. Then obviously, there's something to look at. But no, I think that it's all in-game material. And so I don't think there's any kind of a commonality of training method that, we mentioned De La Vega. De La Vega is not De La Vega is not card stock when it comes to paper. Yeah, he is not built that way. And so Seattle learned very, very early that he is not card stock. He is basic 280 DPI, printer paper. It's just different. Like I said, I think that if you had a commonality of injuries either inside a club or with both clubs, then you could sit there and start looking at things. But no, I don't think that there is a physio training method kind of a deal, considering that these injuries happened on the field.
Yeah, it's one of those things, man, where like it's hard to some guys just like are prone to those muscle injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've seen guys like that where like it's just a constant. They're just constantly banged up with muscle injuries.
Yep. Announcer assignments are out for Saturday. Keith and Mo will be at Geodis for Atlanta and Nashville. So, and the irony being that Tony Husband and Ross Smith, who used to call the Nashville games, they're in Charlotte calling LAG and Charlotte. Nate McCady.
That'll be fun. Yeah. LAG pulled out a draw last night with Minnesota.
Yep. All caps and FC Cincinnati. Nate McCady, Devin Kerr, Kanji, and Danny are in Fort Lauderdale for DC and Messi and friends. Chris Whittingham, Lori Lindsay are in Foxborough for Philly and the Revs. Yikes. Jake and TT are in with Hudson River. Callum and Kalen are doing north of the border. They are with CF Montreal and Toronto. Mark Followell, Warren Barton are in Austin for Sporting in Austin. Neil Sika, Lloyd Sam are Chicago hosting Crew. Christian Miles, Jalil Anibaba are at Copa Tejas, Dallas, and Houston. Tyler Terrens and Kendra D. St. Aubin are Portland at Minnesota. Max and Dunny. Dunny gets a home game as Colorado comes to RSL. Rogo and Heath Pierce are in San Jose for the Purple team in San Jose, and Blake Price and Paul Dolan have Vancouver and Seattle in Cascadia. So that's your announcer lineups for the weekend.
Yeah, and to Hutch's point, yeah, Garza was like prone to those muscle injuries. The one I'll never get over was like was the shoulder one in 2018.
Yeah, he gets dragged down.
Yeah, he gets dragged down into a quasi crippler crossface.
Yeah,
which were like, that wasn't a muscle injury. That was a crippler crossface.
Yeah, he slammed to the turf.
Yeah, the tragic part for Garza is this will be my last thing, and I have to go be a human again.
Okay.
That's the tragic thing with Garza is he was a national team dude. I think his ceiling could have been so much more if he just didn't have those injuries, because you saw him when he was on the field. It was damn good. So.
Yep. There you go. Back at it again tomorrow?
Trying to.
All right. So we'll see you when we see you. And there goes Jarrett for the Irish goodbye. Once again, Niko joining us at the bottom of the hour. We'll ask your Seattle questions and anything else that's on your mind about what happened across the world in the midweek and the midweek mashup. Morning, Dell. Morning, Alex. Morning, Derek. Derek said, honestly, the match went better than he expected. Uncle. Good morning, Uncle. It's been a while. I think you're still watching us from the West Coast, are you not? Morning, Amelia. Morning, Alex. Morning, Michael. Like I said, I'm trying to see different names. Morning, Bart. Bart's been writing a lot this morning. Morning, Will. Let me see if I'm missing anybody here. Morning, Niall. Let's see. I think I said morning to Derek. Morning, Michael. Michael is still the 5-iron away from Office HD. Let's see. Morning, Tom. Morning, 4-card. Let's see. 4-card's asking about losing to Charleston, and we'll get into that over the next couple of days as well as a continuing topic. Let's see. I think that's everybody that has written into the Twitch pitch this morning, and thanks to everybody who's hanging out with us. Morning, Mateo. So yeah, Mateo, we will ask Niko when he drops by at the bottom of the hour about his team that he covers, Seattle Sounders. And that, I think, is a morning hutch. So I think that's everybody. Morning to all of you for coming in and venting your spleen and getting everything off your chest. And so, like I said, we got into numbers. I'll get into some of the thoughts that I've seen that have been buzzing through the timeline. Thanks for watching us, however you are watching us, whether it's on the YouTubes, if it is on the Twitch or the 280 character app. Once again, thanks for hanging out with us as you always do. I guess that first hour was somewhat of an opening kickoff. I'm trying to get the sponsors in. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com as I try and cover up the QR code for our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps. That's the QR code for our friends at Kickoff Coffee. You click on that QR code, and what you do there is when you go and you get your Kickoff Coffee from Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com, you can use the code Soccer Down Here 15. You get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%, reinvest it into youth games, youth initiatives, very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Just ask our friend of the show, Melissa Ortiz, about Kickoff Coffee because she's one of the originators of that idea. So very, very cool stuff. And the SDH scarf better be up in her office next time that she is on the show. So Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Morning, Abby. Thanks for dropping by as you always do. Okay, so let me do that. Once again, housekeeping right there. And this one I get to cover up the QR code from our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps. That's the scarf to help out our friends at the Marshall Islands, the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. And thanks to everybody who has seen this project for what it is and want to help out a nation build a program from scratch. And we follow them, and we're a part and parcel to their story. We love what they're doing. And so what we decided to do was help, because I know that a lot of you have the bucket hat and a lot of you might have the jersey. So what we decided to do was do the scarf. And so the scarf for the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation goes straight to them, helps them out with any kind of financials that they are running into. And you get to see Maddie Cruz and the ones and twos. You get to see Maddie work her way through what was her internship and become an international fashion model, modeling the scarf. And you go to the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation website, you actually do get to see it. How many folks can sit there and say for their internship, they were part of an international marketing campaign and a model to boot? Pick up the scarf. It's $32. If you want Abby to deliver it via the Abstermobile, there's a form in the Discord. Or if you want to have it delivered to the supporters lot, we can do it that way. If you just want to sit there and shake hands and transfer it that way, we can do that too. So it's $32. Once again, proceeds go straight to the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. And if you want it sent to you in the mail, it's an extra $5. So 32 plus 5. Email me, DM me, email the show, DM the show. We'll figure it out. I know some of you have even texted me to let me know about you guys wanting to help out the Marshall Islands. And so you can do it that way. You can do it however you wish to have it done. And you can help out a country from scratch, build their soccer acumen, build their soccer story, and be a part of the process in Oceania. So there you go. 32 if you want folks in person to deliver it, 32 plus 5 if you don't. I've sent stuff to California. I've sent stuff to our buddy Hudson in Colorado. I've sent it to Texas. I've sent it to Alabama. And I've done a whole lot locally. I've even dropped some off at a twos match. I dropped 4 off at a twos match. Thank you, Joseph. That was very, very cool of you to do. And he handed them out to his friends and explained the story as he was handing out the scarves to his buddies who were there at the fraction last time out. So very, very cool stuff. Once again, Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. You can either order it. If you order it on the website, you end up paying the shipping. And it might end up just being, like an over-the-top tip if you're on this side of the Atlantic. And so you can help out our friends at the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation and do it that way. Right there, that's the scarf. Have fun with it. All right. So once again, ship to Oregon. No plans of going there for personal delivery. Dell, I am not. Because right now it would be a how do we phrase this? Dell wants to know if I'm going to Charleston on Tuesday. I wish I could, because if I did, it would end up being something akin to covering a story on plastic, and it's bad. My credit card is burning a hole in my wallet as much as it is already. So being financially challenged this time of year or being financially prudent this time of year, it's going to be Mike and Jason. That they'll be making the trip. So if you would, please roll out the yellow and black carpet as best you can and, be the incredible, hospitable hosts that you are. Dell, I don't know if you saw this, and this is a sidebar, and I apologize. And because you never deliver to Oregon. Dell, let me turn the camera right there, over there in that corner. That is the 25th anniversary scarf and autographed jersey from the team and front office that I've had framed ever since the 25th anniversary. So could not resist that. And, it was easy for me to get that done. But yes, right there, the 25th anniversary scarf and jersey, the Holy City jersey from Holy City 25. So that is there. That is framed. And I've had that ever since we did Charleston Battery Weekly with someone who's now at CBS Sports and Poppy Miller. So I've had that, and I've had that here in the office. Isn't someone in Greenville on it? Chris Ashley is on vacation sometimes, or Tofka. It's either I think Tofka's in Columbia, South Carolina. So, yeah. So posting a link to the scarf. Unc, you can go to. Actually, yeah, Abby, if you could help out Uncle and post the link in the Discord to the form, that would be great. So, like I said, Unc, I will ship it to you. No worries, no problem. No problem, no worries. And so Abby's heading back from NYC, driving someone else's vehicle back. So if you're along 95 or 85, she could deliver it. Okay. So yeah, we'll figure it out. Like I said, there's a form in the Discord. Abby, if you can send a link, or Unc, if you just want to deal with me directly, you can fire off to me, you can DM me, and we can figure it all out, and I can ship it to you. So we could do it that way. Yeah, doing that trip back from NYC. Okay. All right, let's go back over the numbers last night and what else happened in the Twitch pitch here. So, yeah, Alex, we're Cincinnati on the table. They can play however they like. No, I know. At the end of the day, that's true. But I will say this. If they're going to play like they played last night, especially in the second half, they're not going to win a title. What Cincinnati wants to do is they want to, like I said, they want to turn this into a transition game, and they want to turn it into Pong, basically. They want to turn it into back and forth. And if you slow it down and frustrate them, they're not the same team. Defensively, they can be sound when they're healthy. When you have when you've got Matt and Miles there in the middle, that's a great triangle to have with Celentano, who is Wally Pipp to Alacan. But I think that, like I said, I think they can be had on the wings. So, and if you frustrate them and slow the match down and are clinical, I think that Cincinnati can be had. I don't think they win a championship this year. I don't think they get the pie plate. I don't think they win the title. I don't think they get out of the Eastern Conference. I'll say that right now. I don't think Cincinnati gets out of the Eastern Conference. Let's see. Dell, how many teams in Major League Soccer have a goalkeeper as their captain? Let me look at some folks. Dell, I had Messi captained originally, but then I changed it to Chicho Arango when I found out that Messi wasn't starting. All right, so let's look at the standings. And let's see. Red Bulls, sometimes Coronel. NYC was sometimes Sean Johnson. Toronto is Sean Johnson. Philadelphia, Andre Blake. Orlando, sometimes Gillespie. And like I said, I'm scanning here, just trying to go off of memory. Let's see. I don't think LAFC has used Lloris as a captain yet. I think Austin might have had Stuver occasionally. St. Louis, I think, might have had Berkey occasionally. Seattle, I don't think they use Stephen Fry. We can ask Niko when he comes on at the bottom of the hour. Kansas City, sometimes Melia. So there are a couple of sometimesers, but consistently Atlanta, Toronto, Philly. I would say those three, but you've got an outside chance of at least another 5 having periodical captainness. Brad, Sean, Andre Blake. Those are the 3 that I know off the top of my head that are a part of this, that where you've had keepers as captains. And there have been other situations, whether it's match compression, alternate competitions, or what have you, where you've had those others like Gillespie occasionally, Melia occasionally, Stuver occasionally. And like I said, it just comes down to, and Fry occasionally. It just comes down to competition and what you might be what you might be staring at. Bart, and I saw this discussion earlier in the show, and I think that the Bart's points can be mutually exclusive. I think that you can have the same discussion. You can have more than one discussion at the same time. Bart says last night's an unfair assessment and judgment of Pineda and the team. I don't think anyone would have expected us to win at Cincy, even if we were in good form. But then you see a goal scored to a lack of effort, and your 2-star attackers come off hurt in a game you lose to extend a winless streak to 7. It continues to baffle me why the team seems to be so mentally unprepared to play the sport every week. Will said that Gregerson was a bright spot. And so Dell was saying that it sounded like you're holding 2 different views. I think that you can have things that are mutually exclusive, Dell, in a conversation. I think that you can have more than one. You can have a thought and then have a simultaneous thought and not have them be related about a match. And so, no, I think that Bart's points can be simultaneous, and you don't have to be mutually exclusive when you're having those kinds of discussions. Let's see. Niall, if they don't win against Nashville, think they make a change. Will, 3 straight losses at home. Damning, kills me how inept on the road they are. Chicago, lifeless Cincy. Deader than the dead parrot in the Monty Python sketch. And that's a dead parrot. That is a parrot that is sleeping. I think that, I think that Dax is in the hierarchy when it comes to, even if he's not wearing the captain's armband. I think that, as you can tell when he's out there, if you saw it in Open Cup, and you probably saw it last night, where Dax is relaying information. He's that next step up. So he would be the consigliere, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, when it comes to what you're seeing out there with the veterans. Let's see, Dell, about Atlanta United and the losses themselves. Let's go back and check the numbers really quickly. And if I could type, I could, let everybody know what it looks like. Okay, so going to the schedule. And all right, so let's go back to Cincinnati. All right, Cincinnati 1-goal loss, Chicago a draw, Minnesota 1-goal loss, DC 1-goal loss, Cincinnati and Atlanta. Cincinnati and Atlanta is a 1-goal loss. Philly was a draw, NYC was a draw, beating Chicago multiple goals, beating Toronto multiple goals, and so on. So yeah, they've the run of form has been either a draw or a 1-goal loss all the way through. So that's where it's been. Like I said, it's been 1-goal loss, 1-goal loss, 1-goal loss, draw, 1-goal loss, draw. So three draws and 4 losses in your last 7. So that's where you are. Let's see. Well, Ankh mentions why the hesitation, and I think that not with making a change at this point, it's not like results can suffer. But I think that, and it's a point that we've made, that I think that since the players are, if the players had given up, if they just given up the ghost, and they're down in a match and they're not trying to come back, and it's just kind of like, oh, we're down, we're not going to do anything, and it turns into a kickabout and you leave. I think that if they didn't have faith in Gonzalo and the teachings and the philosophies and everything that happens out on the training pitch, I think that if there was no faith in Gonzalo, I think that and Brad mentioned it last night that they have that they have, you know, that they have belief in Gonzalo Pineda. I forget what the exact quote is, but I think that if the belief wasn't there, then the situation might be different, and it would have been you might have already seen things happening from the front office down. But no, and I think that if the players have faith in the manager and what the manager is trying to espouse, then, like I said, faith is there. I don't think that that would be the main thing for me. Is that if they had no belief in either themselves or the manager or both, then I think that you might see things would have been different. Let's see, Alex. You know, the nicest guy, very level-headed. Yes, this is true. Removing the coach sends a few messages. Overall record, especially recent form, shows that there's been no progression over time. When someone new comes in, players only earn their spots again, and that's absolutely true. New guys in town, and you got to earn your spot all over again. I mean, that is in any business. You get a new boss, you have to sit there and impress the new boss. Motivation all around, as Alex says. Let's see. Yeah. Will says that it's possession without intent again and again and again. I would say that possession has intent, but it is the final product. It's that last pass, that last shot, what have you. That's where I'm looking at it. I think that the possession has intent, but it's that final clinical element of it that we're not seeing, and that's why the ball's not going in the back of the net. Let's see. What if you lose at Charleston? And the 4 card, I think that Jarrett mentioned it. I think that might be your Waterloo at that point. Tom, do you do it now and assign an interim? Would Rob even want it? Interim, just take it for the rest of the season. Could you really do that when it signals basically bailing? I don't know. I don't think you're bailing on the season. And of course, who do you bring in as a permanent? Someone with MLS experience or someone from Europe? And that's see, Tom comes in with like 9 questions. I would think that Rob, you know, that like this is. I hate talking about these kinds of things because someone is still in charge. All those questions are questions that the front office is going to have to answer. A, if you make the decision when. B, what you're looking for in a manager. And then C is, you know, it's going to be somebody who's going to sign to try to get the best out of this season in whatever form that is, and then however many years down the line. So those are all questions that I think, Tom, we can put off to the side. We'll sit there and, you know, put a bookmark in those as we continue to go. Let's see. Dell doesn't even know what battery team's going to show up, period. And Bart, to your point about better players in Open Cup, do you play the kids? I think you're still going to end up playing the kids anyway. I think that you're still going to see, and the thing, and I think schedule compression adds to this, is that you're going to be seeing that combination of the established plus a Firmino and a Brennan and maybe an Efra and a Jay Fortune, maybe a Matthew Edwards and an Ashton Gordon going to Charleston. I think that schedule compression, first and foremost, lends itself to those younger players playing. It's just in what order. Do they play an Open Cup? Do they play, do they play an Open Cup exclusively? Do they get minutes on the weekend as kind of a warm-up act for getting ready for Open Cup? Do they get 15 to 30 on Saturday afternoon in Nashville on their way to getting everything squared away with the other matchups down the line? Do they play then? Is the first act getting 60 or 70 or playing 90 in Open Cup and then getting ready for LAFC? Like I said, you got 4 matches in short order, and trying to line up all this stuff. This is literally where you're having all the conversations with the physios, and you're sitting here and it's like, okay, well, if I do this, and this, he can give me this, and this. Because you're looking at Nashville on Saturday, Open Cup Tuesday, LAFC on Saturday, midweek the 29th, that Wednesday, is down at Messi and Friends. And then June 2nd, you host Charlotte, and then you get the international window. So basically, it's a sprint to get through June 2nd with 1, 2, 3, 4 matches, 5 matches between now and June 2nd. Plus, possibly, hang on, let me find out when the next round of Open Cup is. Let's see, round of 16, round of 32. So, of course, you don't tell me. That's nice. So, Open Cup. Let me go back to the beginning. Schedule and results. Okay, so clicking on schedule and results, and you don't tell me. All right, good work. You click on the U.S. Soccer website. Maybe the cup. Hang on, opencup.us or what's the Hackala site? Let's see. Hang on. I know that this is making incredible, tremendous. This is for incredible and tremendous radio and TV at the moment. But the cup.us. Okay, 2024 schedule and results. All right, so continuing to slide through everything, going all the way down to the bottom. Round of 16, July 9-10. Okay, so it's after the international window. Quarterfinals, July 9-10. Semifinals, August 27 and 8. But there is a window there is a window here for Atlanta United, because if you look at it, one matchup, I guess you would consider New Mexico and NYC an Eastern matchup. Tulsa and Sporting might be a Western matchup. San Jose, Sacramento, a Western matchup. Loudon and LA, depending on where that goes. Detroit City and Indy 11 is an Eastern matchup. Dallas and Tampa is an Eastern matchup. So you could have your 4 East and 4 West, and it could be that the winner of Atlanta United Charleston gets some combination of Dallas, Tampa, Detroit, Indy, St. John's, New Mexico United, or Tulsa or something like that, or Loudon, depending on what happens with LAFC. So you could have 2 matchups in the East that could be winnable if everything lines up the way they line up. So you're staring at a possibility. You're staring at a possibility, folks. If you're a fan of cup runs, I think that if Dell is in the same boat, that you could have interesting matchups continuing to roll through. And we mentioned the Gio Savarese discussion. Let's see. I'm trying to buzz through here, but yeah, I mean, if you're thinking about any kind of a new individual, obviously you're kicking the tires on folks. You're looking around, gauging interest. Same with teams that are interested in your players. You're not going to sit there and be completely reactionary and go, "Oh no, I'm going to sell my player for X number of dollars. What do I do with that money?" No, if your scouting system is worth all the paper it's printed on, you're already looking for folks and what could fit the possible dynamic of any kind of money inbound. And no, I don't think you would punt till the end of the season. I think that once again, Alex, to your point, it's about proving yourself to the new folks all over again, and to your front office that's still there. Well, and Tom mentions hindsight and trying to do a coaching search during COVID. The challenges that are associated with that as well. Oh, okay. So the Battery social media have been using a dancing raccoon, Dell says. Okay. So that's intriguing at the very least. I did not know that. English championship level manager, the Minnesota, Eric Ramsey, I think Eric Ramsey was given Wonder Kid status at Manchester United. We had Drew on to discuss Eric Ramsey to Minnesota, and Eric was like, okay. Drew was kind of like, okay. Eric Ramsey has a set idea, and it is a team in transition. We talked about it when Minnesota came to town. He believes in youth, speed, pressure. And that's why you see Teemu Pukki coming off the bench more. Even though Michael Boxall is in his mid-30s, he is captaining because you need that experience at the back. And I don't think he's expecting Michael Boxall to run from one end of the field to the other all day. But that's why you're seeing more youth like Longwane and up top as opposed to Teemu Pukki getting the start. And Teemu Pukki comes in, gives you 30 to be clinical and coming off the bench. And so that's what you're that's what you're looking at with the philosophy of an Eric Ramsey. Bart is mentioning Kieran McKenna from Ipswich. Hey, Kieran McKenna knows how to work with a budget. I'll tell you that. With what Kieran McKenna did with Ipswich, it's like, okay, you got promoted from League Two, from League One to the Championship. So what's my budget? Well, it's what you got in front of you. Okay. And so Kieran McKenna did what he did, and Ipswich got promoted. I think they're going to get instantly demoted back to the Championship, and Kieran McKenna has been turned into an instant commodity. He is hot commodity guy overseas. But Eric Ramsey was tied to a Premier League club. Kieran McKenna seems to be a hot name. I know that folks were looking at Graham Potter. If Graham Potter's not going to take Ajax, I don't know what kind of a challenge Graham Potter's looking for. But yes, Mateo reminding me as I skim through everything that we'll ask about Seattle, and so we'll continue to ask. I don't know if coaches are always reaching out. I mean, I know that one coach probably is, Sam Allardyce. So you might need an opening. Yeah, you got opening, yeah? You want my res, give you my CV. Hoof it. That's what we're going to do. I can guarantee you, Del, Sam Allardyce is definitely sending out CVs everywhere. Even if he's got an agent, he's still sending them in. But we will ask about Jordan Morris. We will ask about and Unk. Yeah, it makes sense to ask Niko about Gonzo, and we will definitely ask about that. But yes, Unk, we do deliver to Oregon. We do ship. Let's see. What I'm trying to see what I haven't clicked in here. Morning, Prajwal. Good to see you. First time that you are here. Bart, on the captain conversation. Fair to criticize players for a lack of leadership. When I look at outfield players, don't see anyone who exhibits good leadership. Brooks of Brahmer, Gigi. Let's see. Hutch using the word somnambulistic. That's sleepwalking for you and me. Let's see. Tom, what does everyone want to see with the final PL promotion spot? I want Leeds, just because of the environment at Elland Road. I think that when we got to see them come back in under Bielsa, we get to see what kind of an environment it is. And I want it to be Leeds just for that. The other three teams that made it into, as much as Michelle Not a Lab loves her Canaries, it was Norwich, West Brom, and Southampton. Give me Leeds out of those, and we'll see what happens with that. I have to have a pint of wine in hand while I do that. Something going on. But you know me, I can't, especially not on the air. I'll have others with the pint of wine when I do it. Mateo, the invisible intern, is back. I know, scary, and so, but I think Alex, you want to know something? You want to know why I think Mateo's back? Because of Maddie. Oh yes, Big Sam. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Sam. Thank you, Tom. I can't have the big pint of wine in my hand. But yeah, I think Mateo remembered that Maddie was our intern. And so Mateo felt like jumping back in the door. It's like, hey, remember me? I was your first intern. I think that's why. Yeah, I mean, Emilio, I'll ask, but like I said, I don't think that if it was the same injury that happened over and over again on both sides, not taking into account physical attributes, then I think it would be a discussion. I don't think it's a discussion. I don't think it is a factor in all of this. But it would make sense if some of the things that were brought to the table by Schmetzer were carried with you. I mean, every coach does it. Every coach sits there and will take, little bits and pieces from other coaches. But I don't think that you can look at on-field injuries and interactions with opposing teams and sit there and link it to something. But no, we can certainly ask. But yeah, I mean, I imagine that there would be. I don't think there's been a very deep analysis of training methods and things like that when it comes to Schmetzer, Pineda, and how Gonzalo has rolled them over. But no, like I said, with everything being on the field injuries, that to me would that lends itself to competition. That does not lend itself to practice and things like that. I don't know. I that's where the physio Emilio's wants to know if they could be overtraining, and I don't think that's where the physios come into play. That's why they wear those. That's why they wear those, for lack of a better phrase, sports bras. Because they have those. When you look under a jersey, you see like that bump right there in the middle of their back. That's the monitoring devices that that the players have, and the physios will sit there and they'll take all that information and throw it into a computer program and sit there and it's like, okay, so and so can do this, they're capable of doing this, okay, they're reaching their limits, they can't do this, then they've got to, the it's all a part of the greater analysis when it comes to what you can do physically. And so yeah, when you look underneath a jersey, you see that bump back there, the Quasimodo bump. That's the monitoring device that the physio staff uses to sit there and say, okay, somebody's maxing out. We need to kind of pull them back a little bit. They need to kind of, slow it down a little bit. They're pushing too much, or they're pushing too much in game, those kinds of things. But yeah, the Quasimodo bump is the monitoring device that we see with physio staffs and things like that. So they can sit there and say, okay, a player is, he's working at 112%. We need to kind of calm him down so he doesn't burn out, those kinds of things. So yeah, that's why when you get the medium jerseys and you see that bump, that's what that thing is back there. That's the monitoring device that physio staffs use when it comes to figuring out, okay, so-and-so can do this, so-and-so can do that, and we need to calm them down. We need to sit there and have these kinds of things. So, so that's where we are with that big. Yeah, and I think Hutch, I think you're right. I think they do have GPS so they can be monitored, because if you're running from one to the other. Okay, so Abby, fantasy camp after the season, they have in-depth sit-downs with the physio staff, and all they measure. It's extremely scientific, and they look at everything. So that's not a surprise, but yeah, that's what that big old device with the battery pack is there. So that's what you're staring at. All right, so let me see if there's any kind of news before Niko comes in and we discuss everything going on in Major League Soccer. There were a couple of things that I was looking at this morning, and it is stuff overseas, because we are reaching the end of the season in European play. This is what I wanted to get into. Apparently, there's going to be a vote in the Premier League to see if they can get rid of VAR. This was what I wanted to get into. I knew I was missing something. Premier League clubs are going to vote on whether to keep VAR after a request by Wolves to abolish it before the new season. Wolves have been on the receiving end of what they believe to be a number of wrong decisions this season, say the technology is not fit for purpose and want it removed from the 2024-5 season onward. League officials met reps of the club to address their concerns, and a formal request to trigger a vote from the league's 20 clubs at their annual meeting next month has been put forward. Statement from Wolves, 3 paragraphs. Club listed 9 negative consequences of the video technology, including disruption to the game's fluidity and to goal celebrations, and increased hostility, confusion, and frustration within stadia, adding that it fueled completely nonsensical allegations of corruption. slightly nodding to Nottingham Forest. So Wolves has put a motion to the table in the Premier League to blow up VAR in the Premier League next season. Really? Seriously? That'd be dumb. Implement it. Get better individuals. Have them communicate better. Don't be afraid to use it. Use it well. And don't be Evangelinas Marinakis and write an email saying that, that Mark Clattenburg and, Mark Clattenburg's pointing out that Stuart Atwell is a Luton fan. See, that to me distracts from the larger question. You're not very good. So you try to come up with external factors, electronic external factors, as to explain why you're not very good. Yikes. Manchester United is targeting Thomas Tuchel and talks to remain at Bayern Munich. So Tuchel wants to – Bayern Munich wants Tuchel to stay. Tuchel's looking to go to the Tuchel's looking to possibly go back and redeem himself from his time that he thought was shorted when he was in the Premier League. FIFA permitted a member of its ruling council, and this is Martin Ziegler. So when Martin Ziegler has a byline at the Times, you know it's not good. FIFA permitted a member of its ruling council to join a summit via video link despite him being in prison, accused of embezzlement. Other members of the 37-strong FIFA council in Bangkok surprised to see Mamadou Touré, senior figure in African football and the head of the Mali Football Association, joining the meeting on Wednesday remotely. He's in jail, awaiting trial charges embezzling public funds. So we'll have some more when we come back on the other side. It's 10:30 last half hour of the show. So it's like 10:30 last half hour of the show. That's the official time. And so that means that we bring in this guy to talk about stuff. That's the official word. So what's in the mug, my friend?
What's going on, John? The second cup numero dos of the Joe. Just excited to be here after another long night. You know, whenever you have 7 or so games on a Wednesday, you got to catch them after the family goes to sleep. So, I did catch just about 90 of 4. So happy to be on. Some good things to talk about. I know Atlanta's not feeling too good. I know Seattle is probably feeling as they thought they would this Wednesday game, but ready to go, man. Ready to just take on John Nelson's questions, baby.
All right. So I know a lot of folks here have concerns. It is 7 now in a row without a win, 3 draws, 4 losses. And there were folks that were wondering, A, your thoughts on what's going on here, and then in turn, B, your thoughts about what's going on in Seattle, and wondering what's going on up there from your points of view. So we'll start things on this end of the scale about, your relationship with Gonzalo Pineda and the time that you saw him with Brian Schmetzer, and now they've hit this patch where they have not won in 7. What, from your observations on the left coast, what have you been looking at here?
Yeah, I mean, let's start with Atlanta, a roster that is clearly more promising, more talented, more expensive than the Seattle Sounders squad. But things just have not played out for Gonzalo Pineda. There has always been one thing or another that just hasn't solidified, hasn't cemented, whether it's the defensive component of it, whether it's game management. And not because I have a relationship with Gonzalo, and I don't want to be an apologist to, there is obviously responsibility to the coach. But I want to bring it back to the players, man. I said it in a couple of episodes before. I think any time that your DP players are underperforming, and I don't mean just on the soccer aspect, but motivationally and leadership wise, and togetherness in general, man. I just have been very disappointed on how Thiago Almada has approached this season. He's looked like he's a little bit disinterested at times, gets easily frustrated, unable to really shine when the team needs him most, and that's what the position calls for. That's what being, the World Cup winner, the young talent goes along with it. The responsibility that if things are not going well, and if offensively you're not doing enough, and you can't put this team on your shoulders, there should be some criticism towards you. So I'm not gonna put it all on Gonzalo. I think that sure, there's a tactical component that could be better. There's the argument of, is he putting players in the position to be most successful? But at the end of the day, again, I just feel like there is a certain responsibility level to Almada. I feel like on the roster build, you can let go of someone as important as Miles Robinson and not necessarily replace him with a like for like. Right now, you got Noah Cobb, who's 18 years old in that defensive back line. Luis Abram, who's a good player. Don't get me wrong, but just has not been lights out defender for this Atlanta team. So all in all, I feel like it's a combination of things. And if Gonzalo Pineda does need to do something, is maybe simplifying things, maybe being asking less in terms of duties of each of these players, and trying to just get some wins, whether they're brilliant, whether they're ugly, whether they're not. I mean, if you look at the results from some of the games that are part of this 7 winless streak, there have been games where things haven't gone their way, and Gigi's missed opportunities, and you've had chances in front of goal, and you've started off with the lead and you haven't been able to hold it. So I'm still confident that Gonzalo Pineda is a hard worker, is a student of the game, is someone that can turn it around one way or another. But there is that other face to the coin where, are the players not buying in? And if players don't buy in, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you are this tactical genius. If players are not bought in, then it's just not going to work.
Yeah, the players have said that they have faith in Gonzalo and what he wants to, the messages that he is bringing across philosophically. So there are instances, and there are repeated instances, where the players are not locked in at 100% for a full 90 minutes, and it's in those moments where other teams take advantage and score. And this has happened repeatedly. Last night, you had the moment that started the goal for Cincinnati is 7 minutes in, and it was where for a second, players shut off for whatever reason, thinking a ball's going to go out. It doesn't. Cincinnati sticks with the play. There's no whistle. Cincinnati gets to the ball. Lucho Acosta sends the ball to the back post. Kelsey heads it in. It's 1-0, and you're 7 minutes in, and you're already fighting uphill. And these moments continued to happen, but the players themselves believe in Gonzo and believe in what he's trying to put forth as a philosophy. Let me ask you this as a follow-up: how much of Gonzo comes from his time in Seattle and with Brian Schmetzer? I know that Gonzo has his own set of ideas and his own set of the book of Gonzalo Pineda. We know that he has his book, but how much of those chapters came from his time with Brian, and what did he learn from Brian that he brought with him to this head coaching gig, do you think?
I mean, he's been pretty open about the fact that one of the things that he admired most about Brian, and that he learned so much about him, was player management and understanding where they should be played at, and bringing up not just the philosophical component, but the motivational one. Ironically, those are some of the things that haven't really come through easy. I love to hear that the players are backing their coach. That is part of the Brian Smexer playbook. Whether that's starting to fade away or not in the Brian Smexer era, it feels like Gonzalo Pineda early on and to this point hasn't lost the locker room. In terms of tactics, I think Gonzalo uh, has always thought differently, and I feel like that's what was so successful in Seattle was that Gonzalo was not a yes man when it came to Brian. He had his own ideas, had his own tactics. When Seattle played with five in the back, that was Gonzalo Pineda initiative. So there have been things about Gonzalo Pineda that he's always had on his own, mainly the formations and concepts and soccer modules. But if he's learned anything from Brian, I think it's mainly the component of dealing with players, dealing with egos, not having a cookie cutter system for every single player. And that's why I feel like you have to give a little bit of the benefit of the doubt to Gonzalo Pineda when it comes to this squad that at times just hasn't been resilient. And there is only so much you can do, right? I mean, yesterday, that goal against Lucho Acosta, it feels like players turn off, right? I mean, yes, Kelsey's the one that puts it away, but Lucho's the one that gets to a ball that maybe he should never gotten to. And that winning those second balls and making sure that you're getting those out is something that players have to do individually, and that just hasn't come across.
So then, is the question from one of our folks in the Twitch pitch this morning: is Gonzo too stubborn and not pragmatic enough? Because we've discussed philosophically where Gonzalo Pineda wants to, his solution for a 1-goal lead is a 2-goal lead. That's just how he's wired. So then, like I said, someone in our Twitch pitch, one of our A-listers, is he too stubborn and not pragmatic enough? But I would say that Gonzalo knows how to read a room and a situation, but you do have your own philosophical idea as to how you want to get there at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a fair question. And I think all brilliant minds, and not to put Gonzalo in this realm of coaches that have a certain ideology and concepts like Bielsa, where they're so committed to the style of play that they have a hard time changing from it. There is a level, I think, to Gonzalo's concepts that maybe at times ask too much of players, and that's why I brought that up. And maybe just be more pragmatic and getting ugly wins is something that isn't part of his DNA and his thought process. That's something that when you talk about the contrast with Brian Smexer, Brian's more on the conservative side, and he has a harder time being not conservative, not being pragmatic. Gonzalo, he's always going to want to play out of the back and always have possession and be the protagonist and have the tempo of play. And there are times where you just have to be able to switch on and off and realize, hey, this one, we're just going to bunker. We're going to be able to just earn the point, grind it out. So, yeah, I mean, there is a level of stubbornness to most coaches that are tactically gifted. And I still believe that that's Gonzalo.
Seattle now. So let's focus on the other side of the equation. Folks in the Twitch pitch are wondering what's going on with Seattle, mentioning the struggles that the Sounders are having. One name that popped up in the discussion was Jordan Morris, not being the same as he has been in years past. When you look at what's going on there with your Sounders, what is going on with your Sounders?
Yeah, I mean, they get a big win at Timbers, one that should not go unnoticed, one that provided them with some leniency going into this game, some room to rotate the entire squad against RSL, understanding that those 3 points were huge. So you still have a very inconsistent team at times. You have a roster that's being challenged and that at times doesn't seem to have the quality for certain games. So when you look at that game at Portland, the Derby, physical, you play it at Providence Park, you grind out a win. You have a guy like Raul Ruiz that has taken on the challenge to be the difference maker there. He puts a beautiful goal in first touch, left foot, his weak foot, if you will, puts it on a dime on a corner where there was no way that Crepeau was going to get there. So there is some sporadic moments where you're like, man, this team can get on a road. This team can absolutely make it to the playoffs. And that's, I've never doubted that. I've never doubted the fact that this Sounders team can get to the playoffs. The problem is that the expectation and what fans want is beyond that. And I just don't know if they have enough for that. The positives are that they've been able to maintain and earn and gain points here and there, where there is a draw, where there is that big win at Portland. So they're staying relevantly above water and close to that playoff line, close to a little bit beyond that. With Pedro de la Vega now looking like he will either start or feature against Vancouver coming up, there is a level of what's going to happen once he gets there. Is he that missing piece, that missing component? But against RSL, you went back and saw the fact that the depth of this roster just lacks quality. And look, we're talking about a guy like Georgie, and we talked about him last week, and it was a point of discussion around the area, around MLS in general, because he's a fun player. He's a player that beats the opponents off the dribble, good on the one-on-one, and you saw that again yesterday. But then we all go back to the quality component, and there's still a level that's not there. Musovski, as much as he's a good role player, he just isn't the guy that you want taking charge on your team. And yesterday he gets a chance in front of goal. He doesn't come off for Seattle. And when you have a team that has a hard time getting to that final end with a rotated squad, you got to put that away. Albert Rusnak, it's a huge concern. Not just defensively, because the press against RSL was poor, was ineffective, but on offense. If anything out of Albert Rusnak was the fact that he was going to be your 10. He was going to take that torch from Nicolas Lodero, and he has not been able to light it. He got the stick, he's got the gasoline in it, but he forgot the lighter. He just has not been a spark. He has not been good enough to put this team at a next level. So in conclusion, I feel like Seattle as a whole has a lot of problems, and not all fall on Brian Schmetzer. I think that there is a level of quality roster build. And Jordan Morris, going to the question, and I'll try to be concise here. Jordan Morris is in a bad form, is in a bad mental state, or just lost of confidence, where Brian Schmetzer has mentioned a couple of times that as a coach, it is his job to make sure that Jordan's confident, that Raul is happy and playing well. And that's where things have kind of gone off the hinges for this Sounders team, because there was so much expectation on Jordan at the 9. It didn't work. All right, you moved him to the wing where he's more comfortable, where he could be a difference maker, and yet it just hasn't been enough. So when your top players, when your experienced players are not playing at or above their level, you just get a team that's stagnant, that lacks quality, and that's what you've seen out of this Sounders team. There's always that hope that with Pedro back, that with some components back, and maybe Jordan finds it in him and gets off this rut that he's been on, because there's been times where Jordan has been in similar ruts, and when he gets out of there, he shines. Then maybe this Sounders team could be better than it has been. But until then, the quality is still going to be a problem. And although Brian, and I have to praise him on the fact that he's gone out of his way to go against his instinct, his natural thought process of being conservative and being pragmatic. He's came out and admitted that to us, whether it's substitution patterns, whether it's getting certain experienced players off when they need to be, or tactically. You got to praise him for it because he knows that he's got to make something happen. He understands that this team needs changes and they just haven't been done. And now he's looking at players that might be able to do that. Injuries are still a problem. Raul was out for this one. Obed Vargas was out for this one. Leo Chu came off with an abductor injury. Whether it's going to be long-term or not, we don't know that. Gabe Mars just coming back. He got a couple of minutes after also dealing with some issues. So there are injuries that are affecting this team as well. We cannot overshadow that. But I think that Brian Smetzer knows that something has to give, and he has to give this team enough of what he can to influence their play in order to get out of where they're at.
Question from another one of our A-listers on the Twitch pitch. Michael Valverde says, when I see Gonzo and his temperament, I wonder if his cerebral take on the game translates to motivation for the team. Michael thinks that they lack the Michael Parker-style leader to drive the tactics on the field. What about this aspect to team and manager fit? Michael, first and foremost, what I would say is that we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. We can look at a press conference. We can look at how someone has with a microphone in their face, but at the same time, when the mics are away and the cameras are off and we're not allowed to be in a place, do not be surprised if there are other ways to get points across than the 20-second soundbite and saying things a certain way. Niko, your thought?
Yeah, and that's well put. And although we do have insight to certain situations, until you have a Toronto against Bob Bradley situation, all we can do is just speculate and think that everything, as you said, we take the players at their word, right? They say that they believe in Gonzo, they believe in the process, they believe in what can be of this team. And we've seen good moments out of this squad, and we know that they have talent. So until there is some reporting or a whistleblower, if you will, to the point of, there is issues against Gonzo or the current style of play, all we have to do is just take Gonzo and the players at their word. And we haven't heard anything of that nature. And although Gonzalo has a temper, I'm not going to deny that. I think that he, as a head coach, has grown and has developed and evolved into a more balanced coach. And again, he learned a lot of it from Brian, learned a lot of it from his time at Atlanta. And I don't know if that's the issue necessarily, but at this point, all we can do is go with the facts.
Yes. And Abby says he doesn't have a temper. He's passionate. He is passionate. So when it's in all caps, he's definitely a passionate soul.
He is passionate. And you gotta love that passion. I love that about Gonzalo, man. I love the fact that he gives a S. You know what I mean? He's really out there. He feels it. He understands it. You guys got to see it in training, right? I mean, he was a guy that here was running around on the field, making sure the guys understand what was going on. He goes over the same drill over and over again until it gets done right. I mean, the guy cares. The guy, you can't fault the effort, the commitment, the desire from Gonzalo Pineda. Whether it's executed on the field or not, that's on the players, on the taxes, whatever it is that maybe is a combination of things. But I know for a fact, and I'll put my hands on fire for Gonzalo when it comes to his commitment and his desire to get the team right.
All right, time to play cliffhanger. We're moving on. We're moving on to the weekend. What happened has happened. We're moving on to the weekend. And so, of course, the first match out of the blocks involves Gonzalo. And Atlanta continues the road trip. They go to Nashville. Nashville's obviously favored, but it's on the plus side at a plus 110. What's your gut about Nashville, who can be had, and Atlanta United coming to town?
Yeah. I've talked about this Nashville team and their inability to do certain things. Shaq Moore got his first goal in MLS, which was just mind blowing to me that he just got his first goal. It was kind of running into the ball. The second goal wasn't much better. I think that their offensive tactics and their offensive power might not be enough to put Atlanta on their heels. But I still think that they'll make it difficult. So I think this is going to be a draw. Maybe not what Atlanta fans want out of this game, but I think that Nashville will make it difficult for Atlanta. Thiago came off. That's going to be a problem. You got to change a couple of the things. Hopefully, it's not a long-term injury on his calf. But whether it is, whether it's not, changes are probably going to happen for this Nashville team. There will be some rotation. So I think a draw is a fair assessment on this one.
All right. Once again, we'll go through cliffhanger and lay it all out. If there's a match you want to talk about, we'll talk about it. 7:30s and 8:30s. There are a lot of them on Saturday night. Charlotte's hosting LAG. Charlotte is favored at home at a +125. FC Cincinnati on the minus side, huge, as all caps comes to town. St. Louis City as an underdog is a +345. Messi and friends, possibly without Messi, has to handle Christian Benteke. Inter Miami favored at a -161, +361 for DC United. The draw is a +343.
Ooh, oh man. Wow, those numbers are insane. Then after seeing DC United struggle like they did, I don't know if I could take them against Inter Miami. That draw seems interesting. Look, Inter Miami has been, outstanding, and they had their struggles against Orlando, but they created a lot of opportunities. DC, on the other hand, they're so inconsistent at times and so, black or white. There's just no gray areas to their play. I don't feel comfortable taking them at all. Well, give me the numbers for LA and Charlotte again.
Charlotte's a +125. Galaxy are a +194. Draws a +266.
And what's the composed on the goals?
All right, so Charlotte and LAG, and we've got some breaking news. So let me get through this here really quickly. 2.5 is a -163. 3 is a -102. 3.5 is a +149.
No, I hate all of that. I would honestly take LA Galaxy on this one. I think they're due for a big win. They've had some struggles. I think you just saw on Wednesday how impactful certain players can be, and especially off the bench. And I continue to have my doubts about some of the cohesiveness that happens, that the changes on cohesiveness whenever you have Paintsel and Peg kind of inverted in this game, as you saw it on Wednesday. I think Fagundes has shown you what he can provide. I think against Charlotte, a team that I feel has overperformed, and I think that's fair. In my opinion, for this season, I think the LA Galaxy can really bring it to them, and I think they'll take this one. So I'll take the LA Galaxy. Don't love the numbers, but I think that's the one out of what you've provided that I would take on the juice boxes. And what's the breaking news?
All right. Well, I have to hit this first. Gary Smith out in Nashville.
Ooh-wee.
Nashville Soccer Club announced today the departure of Gary Smith as the club's first head coach, concluding a 7-season tenure. Witnessed the team reach the playoffs in 6 consecutive seasons in USL Championship and Major League Soccer and the League's Cup 2023 final. Assistant coach Steve Guppy departs the club as part of the change. Nashville says a nice sentence. Former player and current player development coach with Nashville SC, Rumba Muntal, will step up as interim head coach while the club conducts the search for the next head coach. Jarrett joins us with the breaking news. Gary Smith out in Nashville. Niko's still with us. So what do you think, Jarrett?
Didn't expect that on the back of a win against Toronto last night. And I know that win wasn't the most convincing. It had some gritty factors to it, but Damn. That's
did not have that one after a win.
No, man, this is one that I was it's kind of been in the back of my mind since Leagues Cup last year. They have the run Leagues Cup where they go to the final, they lose to Messi United in penalties, but after Leagues Cup, they just kind of were plotting. They're kind of plotting this year. We had the same question for a while of Hani Mukhtar is the perfect fit for what Gary does, but Hani can't do it forever. Sam Sturridge has been okay in spurts, but not what you paid for. And I don't think you've supplemented that roster the way you needed to, and the academy hasn't turned out players like you need it to if you're not going to be hitting on these big free agent signings.
Yeah.
Who is it? Was it Sean Davis they got from Red Bulls in the offseason?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, because I was a big fan of that move, and Davis hasn't even seen the field much for them. Don't know what that was about. You have one manager who is out and another one who will be playing against Nashville this week who is on an almost impossibly hot seat. So
that's the interesting part that they say that once one head rolls, there's more to come. So that's the first one in the chopping block. It is odd in timing. I want to say that there's more behind this because it's not the result that you're firing him for. You're coming from a couple of games ago when Sam Sturridge had a hat trick and you beat Montreal and it seemed like all was well. In a team that, like you mentioned, was not revamped, was not replenished with talent, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Toronto's not an easy team. You would say what you want about Toronto, but they've had something to their play, right? I mean, they had the problems at New York City FC and the fight and whatever it is that happened all down there. But they've been a good team overall, difficult team to play. So the fact that you win 2-0, it can be about this result. So I want to say that there's more to come. And whether it's Gary on Gary's side or whether it's on the ownership side, but there's more to the story. I'm not buying it.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on the juice boxes as they go after this continues. But yeah, Nashville is favored on the plus side. The line has started to slide back toward even money, and like I said, this just broke, so it literally is the slide has started back toward even money. But we'll keep an eye on juice boxes. There's a lot of other matchups out there, Niko. I want to skip to Seattle and Vancouver. Seattle's a minus 118. Draws a plus 267 and Vancouver's a plus 305.
Man, this is a tough one. This is one that I am going to be leaning towards the draw. Look, there's no doubt in my mind that Seattle could win this game, and the way Brian rotated, it seemed like his number one priority was making sure that Cascadia rivalry was going to come with his best players. Raul Diaz had a minor injury that kept him away from this Wednesday game. I think it was called turf toe, what he kind of called it. But he said that he expects Raul to start. So that's good for Seattle. Can Jordan Morris find it? Can Albert shine in this one? JP has not looked 100%. He's looked about 70, 75, but he is the one and only play that you got, the only player, the pedigree in the center of the field that can do what he does. So I expect him to come out and play good at home in this one. But Vancouver's dangerous. Vancouver had made it difficult for Seattle before at home. I think Brian White yesterday could have made the difference, and he didn't. He's going to want to come into this one with a big chip on his shoulder. So because of that, I see this as a 1-1 draw. And what's the money on the draw again?
All right, so the money on the draw, a plus 267 involving Seattle.
I'm taking that. I'm locking it down. I feel like that's what it's the most foreseeable thing when you look at both of the squads and what they've provided here up on this Wednesday.
All right, so total 2.5 a minus 119, 3 is a plus 145, 3.5 over under a plus 203. Does that shake you any?
No, I still think it's going to be a low-scoring game. You know, as much as I would like to say that it would be more than that, I think that Vancouver, with their ability to transition and to put the fear of God in certain way for a Seattle Sounders team that knows that they need the points, you're not going to see a full out, we're just going to get out here and leave it all on the offensive end. I think Brian's going to be careful with how he plays this one. Hopefully, Christian seems like he found some confidence after that goal in Portland. But again, I just feel like this game, rivalry game, derbies are played different physically. I think this is going to be a draw.
All right. What's going on Soccer Bar and Pulso Sports?
All right, Soccer Bar, we're going to get into absolutely all of this. We are going to talk a little bit about the Sounder squad, what's kind of going on with them, how Brian Smetzer has either done wrong or right, but rotating as many players as he did, 6 substitutions, a lot of them Defiance and Academy players. So we'll see how that plays out. We'll talk about some injuries. We'll also talk a little bit about the East, who could win it. Inter Miami, that draw against Orlando was Orlando's 3-2 win over Philadelphia, just a fluke. Muriel finally finds first goal in MLS, then he gets a second. Can he provide more? We'll talk about all of that in Soccer Bar and Pulso Sports. Not till tomorrow you'll have new stuff because players are off for the Seattle Sounders. But at Pulso Sports, you'll probably find this segment as well, by the way. We do try to redo that for some of our fans that really love you, John, love everything you guys do. They're following SDH. And on Friday, we'll have conversations with Brian Smetzer, what's ahead in terms to this Vancouver game.
All right, my friend. Thanks for dropping by. Thanks for handling the breaking news, and thanks for going through Cliffhanger. We will catch up with you soon, my friend. Deep breaths. We're in a bit of schedule compression, so we've got to manage everything. We got to make sure that we're okay. You're on Copa Dos when it comes to the mug.
That's right.
So we just have to manage. We got to make sure that we get through the schedule, this rough patch. We got to make sure that the physio has all the info that they need. And we will catch up with you soon, my friend. Thanks for dropping by.
Have a good one. Thank you.
All
Bye,
right.
Jared.
All right.
See you, man.
All right. So we're guest chasing. And obviously, I don't know if it's going to happen today, but if we can set it up tomorrow, hopefully we can catch.
Put in the call to Italy.
Oh, well, yeah, I know. I texted Lucas and I said, so that vacation thing.
So, Lucas, do you want to talk now?
Yeah, exactly. Well, so I did that, and then I also sent a note to Wes Bowling just to sit there and see if Wes is anywhere near his devices. But I figure we'll end up talking about it more tomorrow. Obviously, tomorrow we're going to be all over the place, catching up with what's going on in Nashville. Okay. So, all right. So Wes is making sure that we catch up with, say, Tim Sullivan. All right. So I will see if we can track down Tim Sullivan for the show tomorrow and see what the word is out of Nashville, and we'll get the word out of here. And I'm guessing Jason's leaving tomorrow to go to Nashville. I'm guessing because it's an early start. Yeah. You don't want to get caught. So probably
I'm assuming you drive that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So just trying to figure out when you're leaving and all that kind of stuff. So try to get a Nashville perspective. Trying to figure out where Jason's going to be tomorrow.
Yeah, you don't want to. You're right. You don't want to get caught Malfunction Junction going through. Well, the other Malfunction Junction going through Chattanooga. Memphis has that on lock. But if you've ever done that
75-24,
that 75-24 split going through Chattanooga, it's not fun.
No, so you gotta add basically an extra half hour when you're trying to navigate that. But we'll try to get a Nashville perspective tomorrow. Try to grab Jason tomorrow. Get you set up for Atlanta and Nashville tomorrow. Let's see. Lucas just texted. Lucas says, "I can always say I learned of Gary Smith getting fired under the shadow of Mount Vesuvius."
I've been to, I'm going to highly recommend Vesuvius to you, in the sense that if you go to Vesuvius, damn it, Nick not being here when I need Italian things to discuss. Emilio's here, but like, so you actually take a bus halfway up the mountain, and you do the last, like the bus will hang out for like an hour. You do the last walk on foot up up a walkway, like a gravel walkway. It's like 20 minutes, but you can hang out. Like we went up there when I was on my honeymoon, and we just took lunch with us, and we went and had a picnic at the mouth of Vesuvius, and then walked back down and got on the bus because it was the last bus of the day. And if we had missed the bus, then we would have been spending the night on the top of a Tormund volcano.
Irony.
Yeah. But I will recommend Vesuvius. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Herculaneum's a really weird little town. It kind of has like a Miami Vice vibe to it.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like it was dropped into the wrong decade.
Right. So let's see. Before we get out of here, Thiago Motta has been offered the Juve job from his current work at Bologna, currently given a 3-year deal. Ederson has a broken eye socket. And so,
nope, I don't like the sound of. I don't like those words being used together.
Nope,
did not enjoy that.
So Stefan Ortega came in for the matchup and made the big kick save and preserved the full points for Manchester City. So it's going to be Ortega and Carson for the last match of the year.
And Emilio, I don't know, man, if Nashville gets a new manager bump or not. And the reason I say that is because Nashville plays such like. Is kind of like Nashville's just kind of weird in the way that they're so aggressive in the way they play. Like they don't really want the ball. They want to play on the counter. Like they haven't been good. And this is that thing where like, where like you've made the decision here on a Thursday morning.
Mm-hmm.
You play in 2 days against one of your rivals.
Yeah.
It just feels like a weird time. I don't know if they'll get the bump or not. I don't know, man, like what kind of time you have to do much with. Like I think if it was a full match week, like right now, I just kind of like, I don't know if you have time just to wrap your mind around it. Somebody's going to come in, put a team sheet up, and it's going to be an assistant.
Yeah.
Nashville's doing some stuff, man. Like, because you remember Jack's gone.
Yeah.
And then you put in the coach of Huntsville now was at last check. His previous job was as an assistant at Livingston under Martindale,
right?
Which is an incredibly defensive system because again we've been over this. Livingston has a budget of like 2 bottles of Coca-Cola and a pack of Planters nuts.
Correct.
And it might be off-brand, might not even be Planters. Planters might be too rich for their blood at the Spaghetti Hut.
The exceedingly generic Walmart brand.
Yeah, wrong great value brand now, boys.
Yes.
They're making some changes. I wonder what it's going to look like because I wonder who you go get if you're Nashville.
Yeah.
Does Nashville call Gio? Sabarese.
Well, would Gio's mindset fit?
I think it would.
Okay.
He's not as raw defensive as Gary, but he's pragmatic.
Yeah.
I think it could. You'd have to make some changes. You got to fix that up a bit. Emilio's right. Napoli is a bit dodgy. If you're, that's true. I thought it was fine. But I also don't mind going places like that just because I tend to keep. I'm comfortable keeping my head on a swivel and not being a generic tourist when I can get away with it. So just be polite, try and do the language, and be open to trying new foods and adventures.
Yes, exactly.
Always do that. Niall mentioned, it's shocking that except for a win, but the writing was on the wall. Man, like I've said, I felt like the writing's been on the wall since the end of last season. And maybe you gave him this early part of this year to figure something out, and it hasn't happened, even though you've got a couple wins in the last few games. I think the last 3 or 4 games, because you had the one they went and just bludgeoned Montreal.
Yeah.
Big Sam would be perfect. Big Sam is the most cursed answer here, and you win. The end. All right, we got it. Big Sam from Nashville. Let's do it.
Yes.
I'm on board with this now. I support this.
Yes.
It kind of feels like this might have been one of those. Hey, we're gonna do this, but what we're gonna do this. You won last night. We're still gonna do this, but we're gonna let you go out on a good note because Gary Smith has done even though I think that it has gotten stale and it needed to change, that does not take away from the fact that Gary Smith took them to an Eastern Conference final, I believe, in 2020, in their first year.
Yeah.
And he's gotten them to the playoffs, and he has made it work.
Yep.
But they haven't done enough in my opinion.
Yep.
In terms of player development.
Emilio says Big Sam would be perfect.
Yeah, no, he wins. That's it. It's Big Sam. They haven't done enough in player development, in my opinion. I think that's picking up with Huntsville, and I think you will reap the rewards for that down the road. I don't know how long. You might get 1 or 2 in the next year.
Yeah.
But I think you will seriously reap the rewards down the road for that. Yeah. And it's an investment. We're seeing Atlanta go through that, where you're seeing guys start to impact things more. You've had your George Bello, you've had your Caleb Wiley, like Jay Fortune is growing into that.
Yeah. Noah and Ephra.
Yeah, Noah and Ephra have been really good. You got moments out of Jackson Conway, even in 2020. Remember 2020, people were clamoring for Conway because he would come on and he was making stuff happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always it's this thing where you're not always going to be Lamassia. You're not always going to be like the class of 92.
But this is center back you, brother. That's how we are.
I mean, but you're not always going to get those great classes. But you have to keep working at it. Yeah. And I think Nashville will reap the rewards of that as they go. Yeah, Alex is right. Leagues Cup final. Again, Leagues Cup final, that Leagues Cup final situation is another reason why I think you go after U.S. Open Cup. And I think it was Uncle was talking about, Atlanta's performances. But like I said, cups are weird, man.
Yes.
Nashville was kind of going into Leagues Cup.
Yeah.
They make a great run in Leagues Cup. They get hot during it. And then it's like the switch flipped back off.
Yeah.
That's why you go for the U.S. Open Cup, I think, if you can. And I know Dell is not here to slander me, and that's okay, Dell. Let's get through next Tuesday together. Man, yeah, Gary did a lot. This is it kind of felt like without knowing the whole story, it kind of felt like we're going to move on from you, but thank you for winning this last game. We want you to go out on a good note, because he did a lot.
Yeah.
He's their first manager. They didn't take home a trophy, but considering what their budget was, he did really well. And I don't know that they ever really captured what they were trying to do. After 2020, they were always kind of chasing that next level, and they just weren't able to find it. What's up?
Yeah.
You made a sound.
Yeah, I did, because you mentioned the numbers that were put up with salary figures. MLSPA salary figures briefly dropped yesterday, courtesy of I guess the PA, and now they're unavailable. But our friends at MLS Box to Box did all the screen capping for us. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Nashville. Nashville's 4th in guaranteed wages for 2024. 26.4% change, up to $21.4 million in guaranteed wages in 24.
I like how the rest of the world is now discovering the raccoon, by the way.
Yes. And apparently, what is it? They've named him Raquinho.
So my favorite thing about this is we have a mutual friend of ours who's from Canberra, Australia originally, she now lives in London. And apparently when she got to London, she was enamored with the red squirrels, because they didn't have those in Australia.
Okay.
Got kangaroos up to your armpits, but they didn't have squirrels. So she was enamored with them. I just imagine like people all over the world be like, why are there raccoons running across MLS field? Buddy, let me tell you about the rally possum that ran across the field at LSU baseball that led them to a super regional run.
Mm-hmm.
And then they carried a stuffed possum through the dugout the rest of the season, and in fact wore like a possum hat around the dugout. Just nothing about this place makes sense. I will invite the rest of the civilized world and uncivilized world to please, at all moments, watch college baseball, especially like the Sun Belt baseball, where it's just all these small schools that hate each other so much, that have to play each other way too much. Mm-hmm. You do have a request though, John, and I know we're in additional extra time at this point.
But hey, we're in breaking news, so it's perfectly fine.
You have been requested that when we are done, whenever that is, whether it's in a minute or 5 minutes,
right,
you got to send us out with one last Gary.
Well, it won't be one last Gary, but it'll be one last Gary considering the context of what's going on today.
Yep.
Guaranteed wages for 24. No surprise that Messi and friends are number one, and they are number one by a 25% margin, $41.6 million. Toronto is at 31.4. Chicago down a third, $225.1 million. Down a third. Nashville up 26% to 21.3. Cincinnati up 30% to 18.7. Atlanta, by the way, down 16%, 3, 6, 9, 11th in the league in guaranteed wages, down 16% to $16.6 million, ahead of Seattle. And so your top 10, Miami, Toronto, Chicago, Nashville, 4, which is a surprise. Cincinnati, Austin, the Revs, who are up 7%, and they are 7th in guaranteed wages. LAG down 28%, but they are still at number 8. Red Bulls, Houston, Atlanta United. That's your top 11. Then all caps is last, even though they increased by 7% to a little over $12 million. CF Montreal is $30,000 more. Average salary or average guaranteed wages per club is up 3.4%, and the median is up 8% to $16.2 million. Let's see. Teams traditionally spending big. Let's see. Messi at 20.4, Insigne at 15.8, Busquets at 8.8. So we go from $1 million to 8.8. Not so big Shaq at 8.2, Driussi at 6.7, Bernardeschi at 6.3, Emil Forsberg at 6, Herrera at 5.2, Mukhtar at 5.2, and Heel at 4.5. So that was what it was before the MLSPA decided to pull the so now it's downloaded the data, and so that is where we are with Major League Soccer and the numbers that kind of came out, but they'll come out a little bit more a little later. And then the news that came out also yesterday from Tommy Scoops, which I mean that you would end up probably fighting an entire league over. Tommy Scoops coming out with information that Cruz Azul has an initial verbal bid of around $6 million for Yorgos Giacomakis that was rejected by Atlanta United. No surprise.
Apparently there's people who don't like Yorgos. I don't know, man. Or don't rate him.
Yeah.
Yorgos has been fine. Yorgos, I would love to see be able to not get concussed in a game or not have that hamstring injury.
Yeah.
We'll see, but I think he's been feeling as frustrated as anybody, and I did like the swagger he played with last night.
Yeah,
where he was trying to run people over at times, because I think it's one of those situations where you're kind of in neutral, and I think he took it upon himself to try and jumpstart everybody.
Yep.
Lay into a tackle, get people riled up, get people's engines running.
Mm-hmm.
And you need that. That felt like Cruz Azul just putting out a bid of like, hey, would you take a minimal profit to take him off your hands in Atlanta?
Maybe what about,
And Yorgos also had mentioned that, it was one of the reasons he came here was because Carlos Bocanegra went to Glasgow and went to him personally and talked about how much they wanted him to come here and that feeling of being wanted. So hopefully that continues and he's able to get back to scoring goals at a clip, which this whole offense needs right now.
Yep. And we've got to get smart for Atlanta United too in Huntsville. So we do have to go. So big news out of Nashville. Once again, Gary Smith is out the door. So I guess we got to end it like this, eh, Jarrett?
I guess we do, Gary.
And so we're going
Godspeed, Gary.
Exactly.
One of the good dudes, though.
Yes, absolutely.
So like we've talked about Pineda as well. Like good salt of the earth guy. Gary's one of the good dudes as well.
Yep, no doubt about it.
You wish him well in his next endeavor and wish him happiness.
Yep, and so we'll find out more about that tomorrow. We got to go get smart on the twos. Mucha Plati, all play it safe. We'll be back at it. Breaking news happening. Gary Smith, first one out the door this season in Major League Soccer.
Did not have that.
Hey,
take a long walk, MLS Media Hive, because all y'all said it would be Josh Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
Wrong.
quoting John McLaughlin. So that's just how this goes. So yes, the MLS Media Hive, and I actually have the drop for this, and so I'm gonna play it as we get out of here today, so I can find it quickly. So of course I can't find it quickly. Here we go. There we go. Yeah, it's Dana Carvey as John McLaughlin. We're out the door. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning, 9:05, to get you ready for what's going on. Mucho plati, I'll play it safe. Peace out. We're done.